let's talk about Dead Space. Dead Space, yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's been in the eye of a lot of controversy over this past week and change for a lot of different reasons. Namely, there's been a lot of conflicting reports about Dead Space 2 remake. So apparently there was an initial report that came out from a lot of different people that suggested that Dead Space 2 remake was canceled over the fact that Dead Space 1 remake didn't meet budgetary expectations, even though it sold 2 million copies. Then there was kind of a statement fired back from the EA team, from EA representatives, that said, hey, this is not true. You know what I'm saying? This doesn't make sense. It's not true. None of it is true. But there was a confusion on which part wasn't true. All of it, outright, or a specific part of them not even making a Dead Space 2 remake and them canceling it. Like, what exactly was it there? But then there was a Jason Schreier report that put some context onto this as much as possible. So for now that we know from Jason Schreier's details in a Bloomberg report, Dead Space as an IP right now is dead. The motive team behind Dead Space, they actually wanted to try a brand new game in the Dead Space universe rather than remake Dead Space 2, and none of that was greenlit. They tried to move different things around, concept it, but nothing was greenlit for them, and it's just kind of been set, and they've been pushed on to other teams. I think they're now working in conjunction with other teams for the Iron Man, Black Panther games that are coming from EA's side, but for now Dead Space 2 apparently is it's dead in the dirt. What do you think about all this?
Dead Space 2 is probably my favorite Dead Space. I think it's everybody's favorite Dead Space. Like, it was seen as like the best one. It's kind of sad because I played Dead Space 1. I really enjoyed it. It's sad to see that it didn't hit the stride that they wanted to, but I do think it's a light in the end of the tunnel with them wanting to do something in the Dead Space universe. I think that might be honestly the better choice for them, just because like that might be what people want. They don't necessarily like the remake was great, but if you already played these games or know what happens, to me, like, I can see why people are like, I'm not going to spend $60-$70 on that when I can just play the old one, or I know what happens. I'd rather just like save my money. So them wanting to move forward in a different direction isn't a bad thing. It sucks for the people who wanted to see Dead Space 2, because I think it would have been really, really, really good. But I don't think it's like crazy unheard of that the game didn't make as much money as they thought it would. And nostalgia's strong, but it's only so strong, to get me to buy another $70 like game for something that I know what happens, it's kind of tough. It was the whole canceling thing, I thought was kind of just like whatever. It being canceled, like the IP being dead, is like sad to see, but light at the end of the tunnel. I just hope that the company that made the Dead Space remake, because it was, again, I think it was done really well.
Facts.
It keeps pushing and keeps getting work, because they did a really, really good job with the game, even if it didn't hit the numbers they thought it did. But I honestly don't know what numbers they thought it was really going to do, because like I kind of see something as dead. Like, I can't even say, like, the only games that I could really compare Dead Space to that like I think would have like did numbers is like maybe like a Lost Planet is the only thing I could compare. But even if they were like, yo, we're remaking Lost Planet, even I wouldn't buy it day one.
Resident Evil is the only comparable thing in this genre.
But no, you can't even compare it to that. You want to know why?
Why?
Because Resident Evil has a fucking long ass. Because I was gonna compare it to Doom, but here's the thing: these have really long histories. Resident Evil has a really, really long history compared to
comparatively, yes, you're right.
Dead Space,
an extra decade on it.
That's what's tough. It's like I wanted to compare it to Doom 2016, but Doom did a really good job of changing the basically the whole game, like restarting it from the ground up. This is a new title. Is almost everything is brand new compared to, like, you're not gonna go back from like a regular Doom 64, like a regular Doom. Like, this is all new. So it's really hard for me to compare to anything other than something like if Lost Planet did a remake, or like you need like something with that short of a lifespan, and it just I think they thought the nostalgia was strong, but it's not Resident Evil 4 levels of strong. These aren't decade-old games. This is something that was made. These aren't like 20-year-old games. It's like maybe 10-year-old game that people are like, yo, I really like Dead Space. And a lot of people who love Dead Space love 2. That's another thing too. A lot of people loved 2. So like Dead Space was like, hey, if you would have been like, this is the beginning and we're doing 2, maybe. But even then, like, a lot of people like myself are like, it's a remake of something I know. I'm just gonna wait for it to go on sale.
Yeah, it was about, Dead Space 1 was 2008, so it was like, like 12 years, maybe 12, 13 years since the first one. And this is it does suck in a way.
Yeah,
I will say this. On one side, again, Dead Space, this remake was very well done. And this again, when we talk about remakes and trying to rehash what came before, synthesizing them and optimizing them to be as good as possible in the new era, trying to bring something new, providing something novel in some of the sameness of before, keeping that core but still giving it the just due to feel fresh today. That's so important in all these types of remakes and remasters and all that crap. And Dead Space was one of the best versions of that we've gotten in gaming overall, in my opinion. So it's sad to see a game that really achieved that high bar in terms of quality of remake not meet the expectations, even though it sold 2 million copies plus. 2 million copies plus is still a lot of good money, but to them, I feel like everybody aims for the apex. Everybody aims not Apex Legends, but literally the apex of sales for whatever. So in my head, I feel like they're trying to look to like, oh, we got to get Resident Evil numbers, when the IP is not as well known and not as strong and might not sell as well as, you know, as a Dead Space. So they were kind of already fighting under the gun with the high expectation and the high bar set by a lot of the suits and executives at these companies who want these remakes to do egregiously well, when, you know, it might not be the case for them. And that sucks. But not even nostalgia of bringing a remake back can save an IP. That's when you know shit is kind of cooked. You know what I mean? As I said this before on Twitter, at a AAA level, I feel like stuff is cooked on many different fronts, because you take a game that you remake when everybody's doing remakes and you know it's surefire way to make money, and you still close it down because it didn't make as money as you wanted to, but it still sold 2 million plus units. I feel like there's something wrong with the system. I feel like there's something wrong with the powers that be making these things happen and putting these things in motion and then closing them down right after anyways. It's just... to me, it's just a symptom of the system and what's going on. When the methods that you use to cash cow it and get as much revenue out of gaming as possible, when those are not even enough for you anymore, that's when I think there's a big problem. So that's kind of like one of the takeaways that I got from, you know, just this news. And the fact that they, you know, from what the reports say, they weren't even considering making a second one. They were they were trying to pitch it and stuff like that, but the suits were like, I'm not greenlighting any of this. I'm not seeing any of this stuff like going through right now, which sucks. That really sucks. That stifles what potentially greatness we can get out of certain games and certain things. Of course, I absolutely want to see new stuff, but if the remake is done well, if certain things have enough time passed and they do well, I would love to see them remade in a new capacity. And it just sucks that one of the best examples that we had of that, you know, of that whole concept of a good remake has just been snuffed out like that. They're moved on to, you know, again, just the Marvel licensed games, which I feel like is going to also be another hallmark of these, you know, of these big AAA studios. We're just going to keep getting these licensed games from IPs that we know, which is, again, cool. We're going to get more Indiana Jones. We're going to get more, again, like the Star Wars Outlaws, like we saw. We're going to get those licensed games, again, the Iron Mans, the Marvel 1943s, those stuff that we know from existing stuff, which is, it's cool, it's fun, but it's even wild that I have to defend nostalgia. I have to defend nostalgia in this case. You know how much I don't want to defend nostalgia right now? Yeah. But at the expense of things that are made well, it's a little bit of a problem for me. It is. But, you know, hopefully, again, this team does have work. They do have work. They're on other projects, so good stuff to them. Good luck to them. I hope they nail the stuff that they're doing. But it's just sad that we won't get you know, another Dead Space anything for a while. It's not just a remake, a Dead Space anything. And I don't think that's too hot when I think the IP had a lot more to give at this point in time. So, you know, hopefully we will see it back in some capacity down the line.